It is 2 p.m. in Moscow. It's 3 p.m. in Islamabad. I'm Monita, Rajpal. This is World 1 live from London. We'll bring you those stories for you in just a minute. But first, 2 people have been arrested at Heathrow Airport on suspicion of terrorism offenses as part of an investigation into support for alleged terrorist activity in Syria. The Metropolitan Police arrested a man and a woman at the airport yesterday who were attempting to travel to Syria. They are now being questioned, and 2 addresses in East London are being searched. CNN's senior international correspondent Nick Robertson is outside Scotland Yard in London, the headquarters of the Metropolitan Police. Nick, what do we know right now?
Well, we know that these 2 people arrived on a flight at about 8:30 p.m. last night at Heathrow Airport from Egypt.
What do we know more about the fighting in Syria when it relates to foreign involvement in the Syrian civil war?
Well, there is a think tank here in London, the Quilliam Foundation, that believes there are over 1,000 foreign fighters inside Syria. The
Russian punk band Pussy Riot are about to find out if they have won an appeal of their 2-year prison sentence. A court session is underway in Moscow where the prosecution and defense have been putting forward their cases. This is what they've been arguing about: an impromptu performance by the band at a Moscow cathedral which criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin. With more, Phil, where do things stand right now?
Well, Monita, the proceedings are continuing here, and through the day we have heard from the lawyers for the 3 women as they go.
All right, Phil, thank you for that. And just word that we should bring to you here. We know that the court has adjourned so the judges can consider their arguments, and we expect them to return at 2:30 Moscow time. That's 11:30 here in London. That's coming up in just about 20 minutes. You are watching World 1 live from London. Celebrated for her courage, shot for her beliefs. A 14-year-old activist has survived an operation to remove a bullet from her neck. She's in serious condition in Peshawar. Pakistani schoolgirl Malala Yousafzai was targeted for speaking out against the Taliban, has sparked outrage across the country and around the world. Reza Sayed joins us now from Islamabad with more on this story. Reza.
Monita, a lot of people here in Pakistan and beyond anxious to hear about Malala Yousafzai's...
News indeed. All right, Reza, thank you very much for that. Reza Sayed there live for us from Islamabad. We want to see what kind of reaction there has been in the newspapers about this story. In Pakistan today, it is considered a liberal, moderate paper. This is the headline: a load of bull. And I'm sure you can understand what the rest of that word is. The editorial says no human being, no matter who they are or where they are from, could possibly think of justifying the savage, targeted attack on a 14-year-old schoolgirl. As long as we keep kidding ourselves, Malala Yousafzai will be shot every day in every part of the country. The headline in Britain's independent paper: shot by the Taliban, the 14-year-old campaigner riding the school bus. It goes on to say the attack on a schoolgirl could expose the wider agenda of the Pakistani Taliban, which is aimed at imposing medieval-style Islam on the country. And then in Canada, the Globe and Mail's headline: teens' love of learning made her a target of the Taliban. It goes on to say the roles and rights of women, especially their right to go to school, remain blood-soaked issues, pitting secularists and moderates in the big cities against mostly rural traditionalists and extremist Islamic zealots. French officials are on the lookout for what they call an extremely dangerous Islamist network. Authorities found bomb-making material and weapons during a police crackdown. As Abu Hamza begins his legal battle in the U.S., British courts have begun deportation hearings for another terrorism suspect. Abu Qatada has been described as having been Osama bin Laden's right-hand man in Europe. Jordan wants to try him on terrorism charges. As CNN's Andrew Carey reports, Abu Qatada and Abu Hamza aren't the only terrorism suspects who've made London their home.
It used to drive the French crazy.
For most people in Egypt, the toppling of former President Hosni Mubarak last year was a joyous occasion, but little is known about the 1,200 people who were abducted by the police and then disappeared during that revolution. Some Egyptians accuse the new president, Mohamed Morsi, of not doing enough to find the missing. CNN's Ian Lee has spoken to some who lived through the harrowing times in police custody, and he joins us now live from Cairo with more on that. Ian. reporting to us there live from Cairo. We have some late-breaking news to share with you out of Moscow. An appeals court there, as we've been reporting to you today, had been hearing the appeal cases for the Russian punk band Pussy Riot. Well, this court now has decided to uphold the 2-year prison sentences for 2 members of the punk band Pussy Riot, and they've decided to free the third, giving her a suspended sentence. So one has been the sports dominant player for a decade and a half. The other is golf's face of the future, and they go head-to-head later. Alex Thomas is here with more on that.
Intriguing.
Very.
But the headline acts at the lucrative World Golf Final, a new 8-player exhibition event with more than $5 million at stake. World sport in just over 5 hours' time, Monita.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for that. You are watching World 1 live from London. Still ahead, behind London's Olympic landmark, The Orbit launches his new exhibition in London today. The Turner Prize-winning sculptor Anish Kapoor has now turned his hand to color and more natural substances. Whether it's to your taste or not, the artist and his work always surprise. I caught up with Mr. Kapoor and had a look at the new collection.
So this exhibition here is experimental, attempting to look into new places that are probably in the end old places.
When you begin a piece of work, do you start with emotion or do you start with a vision?
If one had something to say as an artist, then it's a kind of linear process. It's a speculation. My studio is a speculation.
Oh, I can feel your heart rate go up a little bit faster.
I have been deeply interested in objects that make themselves, objects that are auto-generated. High technology making computers that make objects without instruction.
Right.
So, and I'm interested in that idea of a kind of proto-form. So these are, in a way, high-tech processes that lead to low-tech objects. This here is one of those auto-generated objects. I'm interested in it because it's almost like classical sculpture. So if that's an additive process, you know, where more and more is kind of piled on. This is a subtractive process. Again, an object that's almost as if it was geological.
Yeah, it looks like crystal.
Yeah, looks like crystal.
You've described the art world as complicated. You've described your work as experimental. Would you say, though, that perhaps all of your work is experimental?
I believe that it is the fundamental reality, you know, much like a scientist would do in their laboratory. And how does it arrive to meaning? You know, so meaning in a way is almost gone about the other way around.
Anish Kapoor there. Extending the thrill or just waiting to get it over and done with? Fearless Felix Baumgartner will have to wait at least until tomorrow for a second attempt at a death-defying skydive from the edge of space. Strong wind gusts on Tuesday damaged the balloon that was happening right now at the International Space Station. Mari Ramos is at the CNN World Weather Center with the details on that. Mari.
Hello. Yes, Monita. Well, the go for grapple was just given a few minutes ago at the International Space Station.
All right, Mari. Thank you very much for that. You're watching World 1 live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for joining us. We'll update you the news headlines in just a couple of minutes right here on CNN.
Dragon is captured.